So I just got back from the Aero conference in Salt Lake City, Utah, and the Aero conference that's the association of our regulators, right? Whether you have a real estate appraisers board or real estate commission or real estate panel, appraisal panel, whatever you want to call it. It's the folks that issue your license and maybe takes your license back if you get in trouble. And so they have an association. It's called AARO, A-A-R-O, Association of Appraisal Regulatory Officials, right? And so we were out there, we were chatting, and I heard some buzz and some of the resistance from practicing appraisers in supporting their adjustments and supporting their opinions and their conclusions. We're still hearing the term quite often of, well, I've been doing this 30 years, right? Years of experience, in other words, is the example. I did a presentation a while back. I put those words up on a screen, and it just said years of experience. And I got the audience to say it. Say this with me, years of experience. And then my next slide deck said, never say that again, right? And I'm not trying to belittle or point down or look down my nose to someone that's been doing this 30 years. I mean, I'm in that group, right? 40 years, even longer. You know, if you've done your job, if you've analyzed the actions of market participants in a particular area, and you've been doing that for many, many years, I tip my hat to that. But I don't like it when I hear appraisers use as a cop-out to a hard question, well, this is just my opinion. We understand that's your opinion, but how'd you get your adjustment? Well, it's just my opinion. Okay, it's your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. What are you basing your opinion on? And they say years of experience. That's not good enough anymore. So stick around in this podcast. I've got a great guest coming on. We're going to talk about years of experience and other things in this episode. You're not going to want to miss it. Hi, this is Bryan Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you as always by the very fine folks over at Appraiser eLearning. You need some education? Check us out, especially if you haven't done so already. AppRaiserElearning.com. We have a whole host of courses. We've got a lot of new courses coming down the pike as well, and we'll touch on that in this broadcast. But without further delay, I'd like to invite my guest on the program, Mr. Brent Bowen. He's a certified residential appraiser. Brent, welcome to the program, my friend.
Thanks, Bryan. I appreciate you having me on.
Sure. So tell the viewers, this is a podcast, but we have folks that watch us too. And by the way, if you haven't checked us out, the videos are over at YouTube. So get on YouTube, search Appraiser eLearning, and you can watch us in action as opposed to just listening to us. Don't do that while you're driving your car. Just go ahead and listen to the podcast. But if you've got some time, you might check out the video version over on YouTube. And while you're there, we certainly ask that you follow us, and that way you'll continue to be in the know when we have a broadcast. So Brent, if you don't mind, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Brent Bowen?
Well, I am a practicing appraiser. I've been appraising since 1998. Been a long time. And what I've been actually really writing a lot in the last few years. And that has led me down an interesting path, which I think we'll talk a little bit about. And one of the things that I like to do is to find unique ways to solve problems. So that's really what I enjoy. My kids tell me I'm a nerd, and I own that. So I like to bring that into the appraisal realm and do things a little different.
Yeah, that's great. Where are you located, Brent?
Oh, I'm in the Dallas, Texas area.
Oh, great. Love Texas. Love Texas. We've actually opened some offices down there and super excited about it. I speak down there on a regular basis for the ATA and just love the state. Hate the humidity, but love the state. I hope to go hunting down there with my buddy Wade on one of his ranches. Maybe this fall. We'll see. Wade, if you're listening. So, Brent, tell us a little bit about problem solving. I mean, it's funny you say that because I just told a client that the other day. I said, I'm a problem solver. Let me help solve your problems, right? Appraisers in general are problem solvers, or they're supposed to be. I mean, what we do is we identify the value problem, and then we take steps if we're competent or can get competent. We take the appropriate steps to solve that problem. So let's talk about that a little bit. In years past, appraisers have just, I think they've slid by and they've gotten pretty lucky. They just make adjustments and nobody questions them at all. But times have changed now. Now people want to know, well, you made a $45,000 adjustment for an ADU. Where did you get that adjustment? And if you just say it's my opinion, years of experience, it probably isn't going to cut it anymore. So what kind of ideas or suggestions do you have around that?
Well, actually, my suggestion is to um, don't throw that out the window. I hear people say that a lot too, and I don't begrudge them that or say, well, that's meaningless. I say that's a great starting point. So when you're talking about those years of experience, what you've just identified is that I'm really good at understanding why people do what they do in my market. And appraisers often aren't really good at articulating that and understanding, okay, what is it that, okay, yeah, so the ADU example you just gave, the $45,000 for the ADU, it's not that that number is wrong necessarily. It's that you're not taking the steps to move backward and say, where did that number come from? How did I arrive at that? And what are the variables that make people um, uh, you know value that ADU more or less? There's things that are involved there, and so what I started doing is asking the why question, not just what is the value of that ADU, but why is that the value? And that will illuminate a lot of things once you start asking that question.
Yeah, there's no question about it. As I said on the onset, I tip my hat to someone that does their job, right? And if I meet somebody that's been doing this 40, 50 years, I want to hang out with them and have a conversation because they probably have a lot of value, right? They probably have a lot of insight. But what I don't like is when someone is asked a hard question and they use that as an escape clause. Instead of, to your point, articulating how they got there, they
Hmm.
brush it off and say, "Who are you to question me?" And that's not appropriate. Okay.
No.
I always use an example, Brent. If you were taught an improper technique 30 years ago and you've been using an improper technique for 30 years, wouldn't you just be really good at doing something the wrong way?
Correct.
And the answer is you would be, right? So we've got a lot of tools out there available. Talk about some of the tools or ideas or suggestions that you would have for a practicing appraiser that's listening right now that says, okay, I want to improve my game. Maybe they've been doing this 30 years and they say, hey, you could still teach an old dog new tricks, right? What are some of the tools I can use, or how can I assemble a whole tool chest where I can use multiple tools? What would you say to somebody like that?
Uh, I would say if you're looking for tools, you're on the right track. Um, there are a lot of really good tools out there. There's been a push toward data science in the appraisal world, which is good. And there's a lot of tools that make that data science more accessible to appraisers. What I take a perspective of, let's go down that road of data science, and then let's throw social science in, because that's really the foundation of everything, and try to take all those tools and put them together. I use a lot of various tools. In fact, I'm sort of an early adopter of different tools and um, apps out there, and so I'll almost always immediately uh, try out the new app, the new tool, and I'll immediately do a lot of research with it. I'll take several of my common appraisal problems in my market, and I'll say, okay, how does this tool help me with with this problem. And then a lot of times I don't necessarily keep using that tool on a daily basis, but it will help me to sort out that problem, to rethink that problem from, all these tools. They do something in a unique way, and so I try to find out, okay, how what problem is this really good at solving, and then try to use that tool to help me understand the market a little bit better.
Yeah. Now, a minute ago, you said look at the science,
Hmm.
but then immediately thereafter, you said analyze the social. Elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that.
Okay. So with data science, you're throwing a lot of data points up on the screen. If we think of it visually, which we often do, you're going to be looking at a chart with a lot of dots on it, and you're going to be trying to draw a line through that. And with social science, you're trying to think about, okay, there's people involved here. And the great thing about people is we're all human. We all have brains that work in the same way, not identically the same way, but we're working from the same human base level, and so we respond to things similarly, and so we're looking for social science looks for that why question. Why do people do what they do? And in the world of real estate, so why does somebody want that extra garage? Okay, what do they want to do with it? And so once you start asking those questions, um, then that helps you to evaluate that data science that much better, because you've identified variables and collinearities. So you can draw a line through something um, and try to make sense of a lot of data. But until you understand how people are thinking, you're not really sure what questions to ask of that data. So that's really why those two have to go together.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that answer. One of my favorite authors in the appraisal world says judgment is the appraiser's sharpest tool. And I believe that to be true. People have talked about computers taking over the role of an appraiser. And this is just my opinion. I personally don't think that will ever happen. We as appraisers, we're trying to measure something that is simply immeasurable. We're trying to measure human behavior. So I love that answer. Brent, I know you've written a course. I want to get to that very quickly and let you talk about the course. But before we do that, let me take just a quick little break here. All right. Since 1978, LIA Administrators and Insurance Services has been offering E&O insurance to valuation professionals just like you and I. LIA applies superior customer service and exceptional liability education. They have unparalleled claim defense to serve over 10,000 real estate professionals all across the United States. They offer commercial bonds, general liability, cyber liability, and so much, much more. Visit liability.com to learn more about how LIA can help protect you and your business. And I just want to thank LIA once again for sponsoring the Appraisal Update podcast. We certainly appreciate your support. Check out LIA Administrators and Insurance. All right, Brent, thank you for hanging on there for a second. So you've been busy. You've been really, really busy. You've written a course, and I'd like for you to tell my audience a little bit about what the course is about.
The course is really just letting other appraisers into my world of adjustment support the way I've been doing it for quite a few years. And then I realized at a point that this is something I shouldn't keep to myself. I really should teach other appraisers how to do this, because what it's done is it's allowed me to develop formulas based on that mixture of social science and data science we were just talking about, that will allow me to have supported adjustments for a vast array of line items, of differences between properties that are all all supported. They're all based on market support, which gets back to all those tools we were talking about. And what is really amazing about it is I can have right now I have 16 supported adjustments that are calculated very quickly, is maybe 2 or 3 minutes of putting some property information. And this is just an Excel spreadsheet. This isn't an app or some sort of paid subscription. It's something that I actually give the students at the end of the course. A lot of the course is showing them how to use it. I've done a lot of the math for them on a lot of the common variables, and then half the course is teaching them how to evaluate different variables, how they all fit together with that social science world, and try to make it something that is done in a manner that they're used to. I actually use the scientific method as a sort of a framework for starting out. With the first step in the scientific method pretty much starts out where we started out this podcast. Okay, your 30 years of experience. You've made a lot of observations, so you can probably come up with a pretty good hypothesis for a particular adjustment based on those 30 years of experience. But you can't stop there. You have to make observations and research, and then test that hypothesis. And so I teach in the class how to do that, and then how to integrate it into a giant spreadsheet workbook that I give to the student at the end of the course. So it's pretty exciting. It's something that's not just a just a neat tool that maybe you'll use occasionally. This is something that myself and all the other appraisers in my office use on every single assignment every day, and we keep tweaking it and improving it and asking questions of it every day. And it is something that over probably the course of maybe 10 years has revolutionized the way I do appraisal. And it's one of those things that I never worry about a reviewer or underwriter coming back. Well, can you support that adjustment? Absolutely. Do you have the time for me to show you how I supported that adjustment? That's really the question there, because I've got tons of adjustment support. So that is something that I think appraisers can really benefit from. And the way our industry is going, there's just a lot of pressure on appraisers. And so if we can find ways to share things like this with each other and make the whole industry better, then that's going to help all of us. I want us to be a respected industry, and I think back to how you started the program here. When you have appraisers that aren't able to articulate how they supported an adjustment, it sort of undercuts the credibility of the whole industry, and we've got to address that.
100%, 100%. So let me make sure I understand this. You said that they would get an Excel spreadsheet or some sort of template, right? They get that as
Yes.
part of the class registration. Okay. And then just so I fully understand this, how does this work? Does it pull my MLS data into that, or what?
No.
Okay.
No.
Walk me
So
through how that works.
okay. Well, and so this is back to the data science realm just a little bit. When we're talking about humans, we're far too complex for a single set of data from the MLS for a particular search to encompass everything you would need. So what it really does is it allows you to incorporate bits of research that you do maybe over time or maybe all at once, and to to put those into a formula. So how do people? I use the example of a garage. So why do you probably notice that at higher price points, the garage adjustment is higher than at lower price points? Well, why? So what are the variables there? Well, could it be the quality of construction? Could it be the size of the garages? Could it be the size of the homes? The number of occupants may be influencing the number of cars that people want to have covered. So all those variables can be worked into a formula that says, okay, if I've got a home of this quality and this size and in this location, I actually can develop a formula that will incorporate all those variables and result in a supported adjustment range immediately. And I've actually done all that mapping and all the math for that, and and I showed the appraiser how to import certain data, like very easily accessible information, uh, in order to address a lot of the common variables up front, and then show you where you can make changes to those formulas easily and train them how to do that, so that when you've seen your property and you can enter in some pieces of information, just like I say, square footage, quality, condition, effective age. Uh, those things all become variables in a variety of formulas. So when I enter in that data, all the calculations are done immediately, incorporating all that, and the adjustments are immediate. And then there's things that are, because we're talking about humans, there's always things that are going to be um, very difficult to capture in a formula. But if you understand what those are, then you can say, okay, I've got a range of this point to this point. Okay, I know in this situation there's a few things that the formula doesn't capture well. So in this particular circumstance, I belong at the low end of that range, or I belong at the high end of that range for this other reason, and and that allows you to focus your analysis very quickly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
It's interesting. You keep referring back to human behavior, and that's what it's all about. Um, analyzing the actions of market participants. And have you ever had one out there that's kind of the outlier that it just doesn't make any sense? Either it appears that they paid a premium for it, or they paid a lot less than market, and you're scratching your head. And that's what we do. We're analysts. Appraisers are analysts, and sometimes we're known to overanalyze. You said your kids call you a nerd, right? So you're probably a super analyst. But one of my former mentors, it was quite funny. I try to figure out, well, what's his motivation? You know, why does he buy a particular house? Do some buyers buy a house because it's in a particular subdivision? Of course they do. Do some buyers buy houses because they're in a particular school district? Well, of course they do. The number one motivating factor as to whether or not Mr. George Cox would buy a house or not was if Miss Alice's dining room furniture would fit in the dining room. if it didn't fit, they didn't buy the house. It could check off every other box, but if the dining room furniture didn't fit, they didn't buy the house. So when they did find one where the furniture fit and all the other boxes were checked, they would pay a super premium to get
mhm.
that home, right? Well, how in the world do you measure that, right? You probably don't. That's the actions of one market participant as opposed to the typical market
Well,
participant.
that's where some statistics get involved,
Yeah,
and we actually talk about that in the course too. How to evaluate your distribution, because we're looking for the most probable
right,
value.
right.
So when you're talking about probability, you're in the realm of statistics, and so the buyer paying the premium for the dining room furniture to fit, that's going to be an outlier.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's
So
talk about
where they can get the course, and then I'll have you talk about the date and the type of offering it is, whether it be live or virtual, that type of thing. So this is the Appraiser eLearning website. If you're watching us, you see it on your screen right now. If you're listening, it's simply appraiserelearning.com. All right, and when you get there, you can find Brent's new course. If you go up under Live Zoom CE, that's where it is initially. You can see we have a schedule out for October, November, December, and man, we've got a lot of courses coming up. But right now, is this your first one right here, October 31st?
October 31st is the first class.
All right, perfect. So it's creating formulas that work. I'm going to click on that. So it is a live Zoom course on October the 31st, and it's a full day course, it looks like.
Yes, yeah, this one's a full day. It'll be a long day, but I promise you that it'll be interesting. Despite the fact that we're talking about formulas, this is going to be new material for every appraiser. There's going to be discussions of things that I guarantee you've never discussed in an appraisal class before, and so I really look forward to it. I think it's going to be really good. And early next year, I'm hoping to have the asynchronous version ready to go, so that appraisers don't have to do the long day.
Sure.
And we're going to split it up into 2 days sometimes when it's a live offering as well.
Yeah. I have students that like, both. I have some that like to break it up over 2 days, but I still have a good share of folks that like to go ahead and just knock it out on one day. We're in a roll. And you see over here on the left-hand side, it is either approved or accepted or pending all over the place. I mean, we've got 44 states there listed. So if you need to check out your state as to whether or not it's approved for the 7-hour CE, go over to appraiserelearning.com, click on the live Zoom CE, the last one of the month, October 31st. Is that right? Oh, it's Halloween. Are you going to be in costume for that one, Brent? Are you going to have your students dress up for a best costume award? I think that'd be cool.
That would be cool. I think I won't. Yeah, that's funny.
I understand. Well, Brent, thank you so much. I mean, the time has flown by. I can't believe we've been chatting for as long as we have. When I look down at the clock, it feels like we just started. If somebody wants to reach out to you directly and have a conversation or ask you questions about these formulas that work, what is a good contact email for you, or how can one of my listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can always find me on LinkedIn. And I'm active on there, and always will catch messages. And then just direct email at brent@txvaluepro.com. Pretty easy. And you can go to my website and send me a message from there. I'm pretty easily accessible, and I like to talk about this stuff. So I definitely welcome questions and love to chat about it.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you, Brent, for stopping by. I know you're a busy guy. I'm looking forward to your class. I'll try to drop in on the 31st. I'm not sure if I'll make that one, but if I don't, I will definitely make another one, because you've got me interested. So I want to take the course as well, and good luck with that first offering. I'm excited for you.
Me too. Thanks, Bryan. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast. If you would like to be on the program, or you know of a guest that you think would be interesting, please reach out to any of us over at Appraiser eLearning. We'll try and make that happen. My email is Bryan, that's with a Y, Bryan, @appraiserelearning.com. You can reach out to me directly if you like. My phone number office is 270-302-8866. You can talk to Claire, and we can try and get you or that person you recommend on the program. Until next time, stay safe, make some money, take a little relaxation, go get a massage, take a mini vacation, try and let that stress go. It's going to be okay. For Brent Bowen, I'm your host, Bryan Reynolds. Happy appraising.
The Appraisal Update Podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.